This video was inspired by me watching FNAF 2. I think that sums up a lot of my thoughts as a writer. The past few years of my life, I've been developing myself not only as a writer, but also as a creator, constantly reading new fictional books, as well as informing myself on ways to consider good original stories. But that's the issue with our modern day society. When we consider our own lives and how we consume all kinds of medias, the truth is what sells isn't original stories, it's what we're familiar with. What's often considered a good story? Now that's the question I want to talk about in this video. Hello, if you don't know me, my name is Arnel Arcega. I'm one of the healthiest authors and writers on this platform. As such, I educate people on how to read and write so that they can not only improve their language and literature, but become better and stronger writers in the long run. If you want my personal help to write your own story, whether fictional or non-fictional, then check out my Instagram down the link in the description, as well as my books down there as well. For now, let's discuss the topic of why original stories, specifically in quotations, are killing the world. It's killing industries, it's often destroying the way people view things, and in particular, it hurts many reputations in more ways than one. As I said at the start of this video, this specific topic was inspired off of me consuming plenty of media, specifically movies. I'm not too much of a movie guy myself, but earlier in the week my friend took me out to go watch the recent FNAF movie, and shockingly, it was entertaining to say the least. I enjoyed what the movie offered, and I enjoyed the storytelling that it captivated me with. But that was only for a brief moment. The more I thought about the story, the more annoying it became, aggravating, and specifically how that changed my perspective of what is considered a bad movie. In truth, we often go and see movies or media such as books because we are interested in the topic. It's a sense of familiarity with it. That recent FNAF movie is weird because it's technically a sequel, but I watched it with the notion of not remembering anything from the first movie. And that same case applies with many media, with plenty of sequels upon sequels, as well as franchises that expand, such as reboots and spin-offs. What sells is not entirely a good story, but rather a story based on familiarity and longevity. Look at the Harry Potter series, for instance. It's one based off of 7 books, some really great and others super okay, and then we continue building on that spiral the more it keeps on expanding. When authors consider a original story, what I mean is an original story such as a story made up of characters, new ideas, and new creations. But the issue is many writers, including myself, often try to tell a story that's never been told, and it turns out to be bad. The reason why the industry is filled with spin-offs, reboots, sequels, remakes, and so on is because it sells over the fact that original stories, meanwhile, don't sell. But is that entirely the problem? What I mean is, when we think about how these stories began to sell, was there a point in which it was actually good? Now that's what I want to discuss here, because often many people try to create an original, captivating story that has no longevity, success, or familiarity to us, the audience. Here's an example. Let's say there's a story about a shark, like a talking shark. This is great because there's often stories such as Jaws, the movie, or even something as aquatic like Aquaman. These areas are something that can be consumed because it's familiar. With a talking shark, you can do something with it. But then you start adding weird things such as robotic features, random legs here and there, and try to make it as interesting and weird as possible. And unless the product is good, then the story becomes useless. While it is quote-unquote original, it is bad. Don't believe original stories are the problem. It's the fact that they're not good stories. There are so many cases in which I've read many good ideas but often fail in execution. One of my all-time favorites is Trust Exercise, which is an interesting book that I would highly suggest, but it's easily one of the most infamous stories I've read because it tries way too much to be original and it comes off choppy, flawed, and horribly written in certain aspects because the themes, the lessons, and the expectations are not met. I want you to consider a good story as something as engaging. It's familiar with you, but you are able to enjoy the process. Now, as writers, I would want you to be able to not only know how an original story is structured, but what makes it good. A good story, as we explained, is about catching the audience's attention. It's better to write a good story over an original story. Even though original stories are great, such as the movie Elio, like we see in the box office, and like we see sometimes in book sales, they don't sell as much. You need to write something genuinely captivating with enough interest to balance off of what is there. But how do we do that? As many authors steal ideas and inspirations from others, so too are the stories they are crafted out of. Star Wars, for example, is one of the most notable cases in which people take ideas left and right. I, for one, take an inspiration out of Star Wars, and using that, I want to be able to not only tell a good story through the influence of Star Wars, but also all kinds of sci-fi media. You want to be able to take the inspirations of some of your favorite work without feeling like plagiarism. As I'm working on my 4th novel, I've used a lot of examples of zombie stories, such as The Walking Dead or All of Us Are Dead. But I also want to expand on areas I've personally never thought of, like taking an inspiration from albums, other music, and even movies, such as the FNAF movie, to elevate myself on what makes a good story and how to avoid the problems seen in pieces of media that we don't like. To be able to enjoy what is seen, how that reputation is felt, and what can build success, you're much better off writing a good story that takes a lot of plagiarism from other authors than an original story taking too much weird elements and fusing it to make one of the worst pieces of media you can ever see. One piece of plagiarism is stealing. 100 pieces of inspiration and plagiarism, now that is creativity. When I consider how writing is and what makes a good story in general, the final question I want to ask is, should we care? There's many reasons why we shouldn't, because after all, by the end of the day, all original stories are fictional stories. You can tell up an original story about the time you cheated on someone for your ex. Same case applies with anything in your life. But then we think about why these stories matter, why we care about something like Five Nights at Freddy's, why we care about MCU or DC movies. It's all about the presentation, and the more we are able to stick with certain ideas, the more it continues to expand. As sad as it is to say, things such as remakes and sequels are the ones that sell. We cannot afford to ignore that because that's the way the world runs. At the same time, new and growing original stories still form. You could see this in many of the Netflix originals still coming out, many of the great movies that's still coming out to this day. They're not trying to be a quote-unquote original story. What they are good stories that anyone or a specific audience can enjoy. And as a writer, you have to be able to justify that. Tell the story you want, but understand how to be familiar with it and how to inform others of the world around you. Because let's face it, there are so many problems in each and every one of us, but if we aren't able to connect with each other on a level of familiarity based on the stories we are telling, then by the end of the day, tell a good original story, then start by telling a good story in the first place. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Use this information wisely and continue inspiring others through the words alone. I am Arnel Arcega, and you can personally help me out by clicking that subscribe button and check out my Instagram down the link in the description. Until next time, however, Keep on reading, keep on writing, and take care.